Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Wedding Wednesdays. We'll give everybody a couple minutes to join. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. People are coming in. Thank you for joining. Hello, hello. Wonderful, wonderful. We'll give people a couple minutes to join in. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. So I want to welcome everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Wedding Wednesdays with Couture Cakes by Sabrina. I want to thank those who are taking the time to come out to our very first episode. Thank you so much for joining. For those who might not be aware of me, my name is Sabrina and I am the owner of Couture Cakes by Sabrina. I am a cake artist, a celebration stylist of all things fabulous. I want to take a moment to find out where people are joining from. If you can tell me where you're joining in from, that would be great so I can know where people are joining me from today. Thank you for everybody that's joining. Hello, everyone. Thank you for everyone that's joining. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about why I created Wedding Wednesdays. I created Wedding Wednesdays because I believe that weddings should be more than pretty. They should be personal, they should be intentional, and they should be full of artistry. For every first Wednesday of the month, I'll be sitting with incredible creatives across the U.S. and the wedding world, photographers, florists, planners, and designers, to talk about how we turn love stories into one-of-a-kind love experiences. And because this is our first episode, again, I want to say thank you for joining me today. So this episode is called Beauties in Bloom. So we're talking about how floral design can influence your wedding cakes and how they work together to create unforgettable wedding moments. So what I want to do is I am joined today by Designs by Oochay, someone who work is amazing and speaks volumes for her florals in the wedding industry. So let me bring her on. Just accepted the request. Give her a moment to join.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Sabrina. How
Hi.
are you?
How are
I'm
you?
good. I'm good. It's
So
great to
good to
see
see
you.
you.
Yes,
Yes. Thank you so much for joining today. I am so excited to have you here.
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah. And welcome to the first episode of Wedding Wednesdays.
Yay, we did
We
it.
did it. We did it. We did it. We did it. Okay, so I want to jump right into it because I feel like we're going to lose time, which is all the stuff we need to talk about. So
Right.
let's talk a little bit about how you started your journey in floral design.
Wow, that's a great question. So I've always loved design, whether it's interior design or event design. And my friends would always, I would be the one that my friends would call when they had events to do the decor or whatever for their events. So
Mhm.
one of my friends were like, "You really should take this seriously and do it as a business." And I was like, "No one's gonna hire me." She was like, "You really should." And so what she did was, one of our best friends, our mutual best friends, was getting married. So she pitched me to her family to do the florals. And so like they were like, "Yeah, you're hired doing the florals." And I was like, "I have no idea what I'm doing."
Mhm.
So I connected with an industry friend who was a planner at the time, and I said, "Hey,
Mhm.
I'm apparently doing floral designs now, but I have no idea how to get started. So that planner connected me with a floral designer who was doing a workshop at the time. It
Mhm.
was a 2 day workshop. And so I attended the 2 day workshop and I fell in love. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I was so inspired. I like my creativity. I mean, I left that workshop like feeling like, okay, I can't turn back. This is
Yeah.
what I'm meant to do. So I started doing it, and that was over like 11 years ago.
Wow.
And here I am. Yeah.
Yeah, we met around that time. I've been doing this for about 13 years now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, most definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
So, how would you describe your signature style?
I would say it's modern luxury. Modern luxury is my style. I also don't like when I think of luxury, I don't think money only, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people tend to think luxury equates to money,
Hmm.
but luxury is just giving the client something that looks and the experience that looks like they're the most important
Mm.
person in the entire process. So that's what I would define my style as modern luxury.
Because I was going to ask you how to define luxury, so I'm glad that you did that. Because a lot of people they do equate luxury with high end and money, but
Right.
it's the experience that you give them, right? It's not
Absolutely.
the dollar amount. It's how they walk away feeling after using
Exactly.
services. So I love that. I love that. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about why are flowers such an emotional part of the wedding design? Can't hear you. Yeah, yeah. No
Can you
problem.
repeat that question?
So why are flowers such an emotional part of the wedding design?
See, flowers are God's gift to us. Flowers and that's
Hmm.
nature, right? And they come in so many colors, so many textures, so many scents, right?
Hmm.
And so they evoke all these different senses, our sense of touch, our sense of sight, our sense of smell. And so when you walk into a room or you walk into a wedding and you see just an abundance of florals, all those senses in
Yeah.
you gets awakened, and what comes next is like a smile on your face, this happy joyful feeling, because all
Yeah.
your good senses of sight, touch, smell are all awakened, and it just evokes joy when you walk in. That's why people give flowers for birthdays, Mother's Days, Valentine's Day, or just because. That's why people, there's flowers at funerals because
Mm-hmm.
funerals are such a sad time.
Mm-hmm.
But when there's flowers there, again, it somehow brings a little bit of joy. So you're not gloomy all the time. You're not feeling gloomy the entire time. At least you can look at the flowers, you can smell the flowers, and it awakens those senses. Same thing for weddings. Like people walk into that room and they're like, oh my God, it smells
Yeah.
amazing and it looks
Yeah.
amazing and it just feels amazing. And so that's why florals are such an important part in a wedding. And I tell clients, don't skim out on it because you don't think they're important. They really do transform your event,
Mm-hmm.
the day of your event.
I mean, I love flowers myself, and me being a sugar florist who makes flowers out of sugar, I like to examine them and I actually get joy.
Yeah,
I mean, looking at
exactly.
the flower and dusting it and coloring it, it's a, something about a flower that lifts your spirit. So
Absolutely.
I totally agree with
Yep.
that. Okay. So let's talk about some of the floral trends you're seeing and you're loving right now. I think you actually shared some images with me. So let me share. Oops, took the camera off. I was trying to share some images, but I'm unable to. So just tell us a little bit while I try to find some of the images that you sent to me. Some of
Absolutely.
some of the trends that you're seeing.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing right now with floral trends is the incorporation of fruits and vegetables and
Mhm.
florals. We're seeing people use things like grapes, apples, citrus, artichokes,
Wow.
peppers, tomatoes, anything really vegetable or fruit wise are being incorporated in floral designs. And I think that's really unique. Again, speaking to that nature element, these things grow from nature. So flowers and fruits and veggies are all nature's gifts to us. So we're seeing a lot of artistry incorporating florals with these elements. And I think it's really cute. I think it's really creative. don't want to. It's not. I don't want to create a misconception that that people might think is less expensive if you incorporate.
Right.
I want to be clear on that. It doesn't mean it's going to be less expensive if you go to a florist and say, "Oh, why don't you just add more fruits and less flowers?" No, because they still have to buy the fruits. They still have to do what they need to do to keep the fruits alive and fresh for your event. So I want to clear that up when I say this, that just because you're seeing fruits incorporated, it's not because they can afford a lot of flowers. It's just what the trend is right now, seeing that mix of fruits and flowers together. But it's not a cost effective way, so to speak. It's just a different look and a trend that we're seeing right now. And another trend that we're seeing is what we call ikebana.
Ooh.
Ikebana is it came from Asia. I want to say Japan, but don't quote me. Where you see just modern minimal florals being used in a
Mm.
vessel. It's very light. It's very airy, but it's, you see it. We use what we call frog pins for those, and you stick the stems in the frog pin, and it's like a big bowl or a big dish, but very few flowers sticking out in various angles. It's called Ikebana style, and I see that a lot now. And you can have multiples of those on a table, for example, like an estate table, where it's just very light florals, designed Ikebana style, but then you have candles just kind of going down the table. So
Hmm.
it's still, you still have that touch of florals, but not heavy florals. That's another thing. Again, it's not an inexpensive look. It's just what the trend is right now.
Okay, that's amazing. So I'm unable to pull up the images right now, but I will post those in the story so that people can see an example of the images or the styles that you mentioned, for people to view at a later date. So I will do that.
Perfect. Thank
Um,
you.
so, so let's talk a little bit about the cake table. We've worked together in the past, and the cake table is so important because it's part of the overall aesthetics of the wedding. So,
Yes.
how do you approach styling your florals for the cake table?
Well, it depends on the cake,
Right.
right? We have some cakes that the baker artist like you would, you do sugar flowers and it's amazing and it's
Hmm.
beautiful. If a cake comes with a lot of sugar flowers, we're not gonna add flowers to it because the sugar flowers already does the work for us. So what we would do is we'll elevate the cake by adding maybe we'll add florals on the table just to kind of surround the floor. So again, the eyes are being drawn towards the cake
Hmm.
table. Now, if it's a cake that's just a plain buttercream cake, there's no color on it or anything, then we'll bring in florals to kind of again draw the eye. Again, one thing we're doing is that sense of sight. We want to be able to have the guests, their eyesight
Yeah.
see, and they walk in and it's like a statement piece in the room, and like, oh, that's the cake. So we'll
Yeah.
add flowers to cakes that are like just plain buttercream or just no, there's no design on it at all. That's when we're like, okay, we need to go heavy with florals on it. And then you have some cakes that are super colorful.
Hmm.
They just need a touch of florals here and maybe a few
Yeah.
spots. And then we'll just do that. But it really depends on how the cake looks, right? We always bring extra flowers with us because we feel like the cake it's hard. Like the cake is not something that we as florists know ahead of time because when we're
Hmm.
booked, our clients haven't made that decision on what their cake is going to look like. So
Right.
usually a month before the wedding, we'll sit with the client again and say, okay, what's your cake? What does it look like? And then they can give us more information on what the design will be. And then we can plan accordingly as to florals. It's a collaborative process between us and the baker.
Hmm.
Some bakers like us to bring the flowers ahead of time prior to, and they will place it. Some
Yeah.
bakers are okay with the florist placing the cake on the flowers. We don't mind. We just need to know what is required of us as a florist to
Hmm.
do. And so yeah.
I typically, if I happen to work with fresh florals, I like to talk to you beforehand
Right.
and make sure the flowers are prepped.
Yes.
Right. So I don't want to sit there trying to clean the flowers off and all
Right.
that good stuff. So I like to let the florist know this is what I need so that they're prepped and ready for me. Because I've been places before where they're like, "There's the bucket. I have to,
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
to get the cutter and do it myself." But I'm just like, really? But
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, and
You
it's
do what you got to do,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Exactly, because again, the cake is your product, right? So you have
Exactly.
to
But yeah,
and
the
and
florals.
right.
Go
And I
ahead.
think to that florist defense, or I don't know what the story is behind, it could be that they were not informed that you would need
Exactly.
flowers.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's all about a coordination effort. So
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, it's all good. So let me interject. All right, let me take a second for those who are just joining. to welcome them to the first episode of Wedding Wednesdays. And I'm here with Designs by Oochay,
Hey.
talking all things florals, cakes, and creating cohesive aesthetics. So welcome to everyone who was joining in. And if you're on the replay, make sure to add replay so that we know you're joining after the live has finished. Share this live with your friends who's planning their wedding, or tag someone who needs this floral inspo in their lives. So let's take a minute and ask a question. So if someone is trying to minimize their floral budget or minimize costs, what are some ideas that you recommend that they can use to create a great experience, but at a lower, I don't want to say a lower budget in a sense
Yeah,
based on what they
there's
have.
a
I don't
lower
know what
budget.
that could be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think flexibility is important, right? Like if the
Right.
client is flexible, one of the things that I used to like not do in the past is use silks. But nowadays there's some really great quality silks that actually look and feel like fresh florals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's communicating with the client like, okay, I understand you have a limited budget. We can make this work, but are you flexible with us mixing some fresh florals with silks, right, for your table centerpieces? And if sometimes when you show them the silk flowers and they touch it, they're like, oh wow, this is
Right.
actually, it feels like it's real, but it's actually silk. I actually did an event, and I had a freelancer who was a florist worked with me that day, and she could not believe when I told her that they were all silks. Like she had to literally go touch it and feel it to make sure I was telling the truth, because from afar they looked just like fresh flowers. So those are ways, and then silks are reusable. So those are ways that clients can be, be a little bit flexible. Like it's okay to use silks in your centerpieces. We can always add, like I said, fresh flowers to kind of mix them in a little bit. And in photos, you can't tell. And to be honest, how many guests actually sit at the table and like touching the flowers? A lot of
Right.
guests don't do that, unless you have a florist who is one of your guests. Like me, I would be one of those guests doing that.
Right.
But if it's the look you're going for, again, that emotion that you're trying to evoke, sense of sight, sense of smell, sense of touch, adding a little hints of the fresh flowers will bring that sense of smell. But then the look, the colors, everything that you want, you could still achieve a beautiful wedding, cost effective, using a mixture of silks and fresh.
And
Especially,
see, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, especially in the economy we're in right now, where
Yeah.
everyone's trying to not spend so much on weddings. I think, and as florists, we can reuse those silks. We can reuse them for other, because we'll be charging a rental price on the silks as opposed to charging a full price. So we can reuse the same silk flowers for other weddings and the client would just pay a rental price on it. So that's I feel a cost effective way now to give clients what they want, but on a lower budget.
Okay. So because I initially had thought the rule of thumb was to use silk flowers high up where they couldn't be,
Touched.
I don't know, yeah, where they
Yeah.
couldn't be touched. But now you're saying, you're dispelling that myth and basically saying, well, that you can mix them in. I've seen some great silk flowers also.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think that's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay.
I mean, it's still the rule of thumb, but let's be real. We're in a very hard economy right now. No one's trying to
Yeah.
break the bank. Times
Yeah.
are hard. No
Yeah.
one's trying to break the bank for fresh flowers. Plus, we have these tariffs and everything happening right now.
Amen.
And so it's like if I'm constantly importing fresh flowers for every wedding, that's my profit. And
Right.
the client may not be able to afford that, but I can use what's in my inventory that I've already paid, that I already have, and just reuse that for the clients and still give them a high-end look, but it's not breaking the bank. So I think, yes, it's the rule of thumb is if they can touch it, don't use silk, but we have to also be flexible in times like these where we find ourselves.
Right. I'm gonna ask you a question that we didn't talk about. Just
Yeah.
looking at time and everything like that. So, how do you determine? I guess I know that florals are seasonal,
Right.
right? So, how do you determine what you're going to use based on the time of year that the wedding is? I know, like right now, it would be cherry blossoms, right? because we're in the wedding month, right? May is the beginning of wedding
Right.
season. So what is the best way, I guess the rule of thumb that you give clients to determine what flowers to use at what specific times? Is it what's ever available or?
Yeah. I mean, cherry blossom season is actually over. That was March,
Oh,
April. So yeah.
okay.
So right now we're in the peony season. Peonies are starting to
Oh.
come out now, and other types of flowers, lilacs and things like that. So I still I still say go with, if you're having a May wedding, for example, then you want peonies because that's what's in season right now. But if
Yeah.
you're having a July or August wedding, like you can get the peonies, they'll just be super expensive because they're not in season at
Mhm.
that time. They will have to be imported from somewhere else where they're in season, and then that's going to be a higher cost for you. But peonies are in season right now in our area. There are local farms that are growing them and harvesting them right now, so you can use them. So depending on the time of the year, I always, as a florist or floral designer, it's my job to guide the client and let them know, okay, here's what is going to be season. And then there are flowers that are year round, right? We can always use roses, garden roses, flowers that are year rounds. I like carnations. I use carnations. Uh, flowers that are year round. We can guide them and say, okay, we can use this for your wedding. But if you're somebody who loves a particular kind of flower, you want to be mindful
Mhm.
of the season of that flower and plan accordingly and have your event when that flower is in season.
So our orchids are not seasonal. They're all year round,
They're all
correct?
year round. Yeah, they're all year round. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let me see. Time went by so fast. Um,
Mm-hmm.
let me see. Are there any questions here? All right. So, do you have anything else you'd want to add that I might have missed to tell the folks about florals or anything? Any last thoughts or parting comments that you
I
want to add?
think it's important to collaborate as much as possible with all the vendor partners. I think it's especially important when you hire a baker for your cake to
Mm,
give that baker the information of who the florist is for the wedding so that
yeah.
they can be in communication with each other. Because for example, when you're doing your sugar flowers, you typically call me and be like, hey, what flowers are
Yes,
you using
I
for
do.
this wedding? Because you want to make sure that the sugar flowers that you're making are also cohesive with the flowers they were using to design. So
That's
I think that's
important.
very important that, the baker and the florist should communicate with each other, whether one's providing flowers for the cake or not. I think is important because another thing that is important is when you deliver the cake, when the cakes are being delivered, if we have to put
Mm,
flowers on the cake, we need to be
mm-hmm.
able to coordinate that with the rest of the setup that we're doing. We need to make sure that when the cake gets there, that we are going to still be there
Right.
to put the flowers on the cake and vice versa. So I think that collaboration piece is very important. The clients need to
Mm-hmm.
understand that,
Mm-hmm.
that it's not just one person doing this and the other person doing that, but we're all working as a team to make sure that their wedding is what they dreamt it to be. So,
Exactly. And I also say, like you mentioned, collaboration is important, and just being able to collaborate with the florist um, to be able to determine the florals that are being used. One thing I always say is that when a client comes to me and they're getting their wedding cake, one of the things that I think that they should have locked down is the florist. I
absolutely.
always tell them the florist should be locked down and booked before you come to me. It's almost like, I don't want to say I'm the last person, but I kind of am the last,
Right.
right? So you have your florist, you have your venue, you have your planner. So when you come to me, it's like all this stuff is locked down. You have an inspiration as far as the decor and what the florist is going to do.
Right.
And that helps me determine the feel of it. Is it romantic? Is it modern? Is it classic? Is it barn? Whatever it is, rustic. That helps
Absolutely.
me determine how I'm going to proceed and whether or not you're going to use fresh or sugar flowers, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
that's one thing I also tell folks also to just make sure you have your floral locked in first before you come to me.
Absolutely.
Let me see. I, we have 1 minute left. I can't believe the time has gone by so fast. People are starting to come in. Again, welcome. So I guess I'll wrap it up, I guess.
Yeah.
Time went by so fast. Oochay,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today on florals, giving your floral perspective, and your artistry is amazing, and I've loved working with you over the years. We've done numerous weddings, and again, um, I hate that the photos did not work, but
It's
again,
okay.
I will share them in the live, in my Insta story. Some of the florals that and examples that we mentioned today, and some of the cakes that we worked on. I'm going to share that throughout my Insta stories today to show the collaboration and how floral and cake can come together to,
Yes.
to set the overall tone
Yes.
of your wedding experience. So again, to the audience, thank you for joining the first episode of Wedding Wednesdays. We'll be back next month on the first Wednesday of the month with a new guest and a new theme. And if you missed part of this live, the replay will be posted and saved here. And I'll be posting highlights soon. Until next time, remember, it's not just cake, it's an experience. So
Yes.
thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.